Welcome to Good Horses, Stories of the American Quarter Horse. I'm Jim Jennings.
And I'm Bobby Loran. We're excited to bring you the stories of the horses that have made a lasting impact on some of the most legendary figures in the quarter horse industry. Each episode, we'll hear about the horses that challenged them, taught them, and left a special mark on their lives.
From remarkable lessons to unforgettable rides, these are the stories that celebrate the heart, soul, and horsepower of the American quarter horse.
This podcast is brought to you by the American Quarter Horse Association. Let's get started.
In this episode, we're continuing our conversation with Jason Martin and Charlie Cole of Highpoint Performance Horses. This time, we're focusing on the rodeo horses that took them on incredible journeys to the National Finals Rodeo. And we're going to talk about their unforgettable experiences along the way.
I guess it starts because we decided we needed a little change of, just want to do something different from our show horse experience that we'd done forever. You know, Jason had been in the jumping world, so he was used to speed and did the jumping. I'd grown up a little bit in the rodeo world, so we decided in the late 90s that we wanted to do something a little different. So I don't really know how we landed on barrel racing and pole bending, but we decided we're going to get a barrel and pole bending horse, and we're going to share it, which is even crazier.
And at the time, all the shows that we went to had poles and barrels.
Yeah.
So it was easy to bring out, quarter horse at the quarter horse shows. It was easy to bring along our pole or barrel horse because we could, at the end of the day, the poles and barrels would be going in. So we didn't really have to go to another venue or, a different competition. We could just do it with our show horses.
Yeah. So we first bought this, I think it was my sister's horse. Maybe my sister's still a barrel racer. She stayed in the horse, but she left the show world way before I even started my business. But I think we got one of her horses, a little bay horse that we both just kind of ran for a year or two and just kind of got our feet wet in the speed events. And then I cold called, Ross Carnahan and Brad Wagner, two of the biggest barrel and pole bending guys in the Midwest. I think that's what you call that area. And they told me about two different horses. And I went out there and bought this horse named, I called him Boomer. He didn't really have a name when I bought him that I can remember. But a little 4-year-old pole bending horse that was running 19th. The guy, Gene Fletcher, had trained him really well and done some barrel racing on him, but not a ton. And right off the bat, Jason was running the poles on him. I was doing the barrels. And wherever I went or wherever we went, we were at the top of the group in those events. And I kind of knew like this horse must be special because we're two idiots out here doing this. And Boomer was just an amazingly talented and fun horse. So that's kind of how we got into it. And then I had a friend that was hauling for the NFR that year in the barrel racing. And I called her one day. I'm like, I think my horse is special. Like, I think you need to come ride this horse and give it a shot. So she picked him up on a Thursday. He was 4 years old. Or I think that he's 5 that year. He was a 5-year-old because I got him at the end. He was 4-year-old. And she took him to his first rodeo on Saturday, and he won his first rodeo on Saturday. Wow. And she rode him 2 days. And that's basically how we got hooked in the rodeo thing, because then Charmaine James leased in from me.
What was his name now?
His name was FQH A Sharp Move, but I called him Boomer.
Okay.
And later that year, Charmaine James, who was hauling with Christian Weaver, who was the one who ran him first for me, they were hauling together. And Charmaine James, who I didn't really know, I'd met her briefly, called and said, will you lease me that horse? And so we talked about it, and she took our horse and, went to winning right away. And then the only rodeo we got to go to was Cheyenne. And it's 3 rounds, and he won a round. He was second round, third round, and won the average. And Charmaine James rode around that giant arena and rode up and handed us the buckle in the arena. And so that was how we got into it. We got hooked on NFR and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to shake the bug after something like that.
Yeah, you try to relive it, which thankfully we have a few times.
Well, then we bought his full sister, which is Boumette, Rod's last ladybug, who just happened to be the full sister, who is our blue hen mare, and literally our whole breeding program for the barrels came from her. She was a world champion. She produced a world champion. She produced a world record holder. And she's the dam of some horses we're still running now.
Wow. So what were the qualities about that mare that you wanted to pass on to her offspring?
She was really gritty, and they weren't the easiest to start, but after they learned their job, they were just really gritty and quick-footed, and they were just really talented horses.
Yeah, they definitely had like Boomer had this explosive power away from the barrel, and she had a lot of that. Probably not quite as much as him, but she was just gritty and tough, and that's what you want in a barrel horse, especially a rodeo horse. You need a gritty, tough one.
Yes.
And her baby's just recently passed the $1 million mark, so now she's a $1 million producer, and we have a 3-year-old stud colt buyer this year that will be the futurity horse for next year with Ashley Schaefer, and his name's HB Hot Rod. So we have a lot going on, and with those bloodlines.
That's incredible.
What about Slick by Design?
I've never heard of him. Slick by Design is a life changer for sure. I'd never heard of Slick by Design, neither had Jason, I don't think. I'd never heard of Jennifer Sharp, the girl that rode him. But I was at the World Show in 2012. We weren't looking for a stallion. We actually had bought some embryos out of 2 of the greatest barrel mares that year, but we decided we were going to raise a barrel stallion, and then we could stand them because all of our other stallions are owned by clients. But I was sitting up in the stands, and I see this black stallion running there, and just the way he worked and the style and the smoothness and the explosiveness of his speed, I right away, I was like, well, that's a special horse right there. And so we weren't looking for anything. We didn't need another barrel horse. We thought we had a plan for getting a stallion. But I texted Jason, and I was like, I just saw an amazing horse. And he kind of was like, oh, whatever. So I go back up to the next day, and here comes Slick again. He wins the prelims. And that next day I come in, he wins the finals. And just something about him. I mean, he's black. He's just mega talented. And I didn't know at the time that he's just great-minded. But I messaged Jason again. I go, no, we got to find out about this horse. He's like, we'll go find out about it. So thankfully, I knew this vet tech that knew the owner because they were from Texas, South Texas. And long story short, 2 weeks later, I had a girl that was trying to use my horse for the NFR that year because her horse was hurt. And I had a really nice gelding I was running at that time, like a really good horse. And I was like, well, come try my horse. Well, she had him, but then Slick came along, and we were like, well, we could just buy Slick, and then she can just run him at the NFR. This is how naive we were, even in 2012. So we're like, we're going to do this. So we agree to buy Slick. We try him out. They try him. It went okay. He didn't run any. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, this is the perfect horse. But without going too far into it, we bought Slick, and we actually had to borrow half the money to buy Slick. It was a big, we'd done well in the show horse thing, but we couldn't afford to buy him outright. So we did. And basically from then on, do you want to tell where we're at from there? Well, I knew a girl named Michelle McLeod. I'd been second to her at Houston in the barrel racing on a stud, and I'd ran my gelding Mo. That was a really nice horse. And I'd seen Michelle around here all year showing this or running this stud. So when Slick needed a rider, I was like, well, she obviously can do a stallion. And so we connected Michelle and Slick. She lived right up the road. And really, it was basically a match made in heaven from day one. I mean, she started taking him and went to a couple jackpots, but then a couple months later in May, she won Fort Smith. And then she was like, we're going to go rodeo. And so she went out in July, and he'd never even rodeoed. And our intent was not to make the NFR. But Slick had other plans. And from July till October, he won enough money to make the NFR that year. I think he was even 3rd or 4th going into the NFR our very first year. So he was just a freak of nature when it came to rodeos and just how fast he took to it. And so that's Slick. For what do you want to add to that?
No, he was definitely a life-changing horse for us. But just the ride that he took us on for 4 NFRs, and he's a Breyer horse, and it's just so incredible that we now he just this week passed the $8 million mark as a sire, and it's just fun having a horse that we took on the rodeos, and we got our first NFR round wins on, and he just took us on literally an amazing ride that really set the pace for us to keep going with other horses to the NFR, and hopefully one of these days we'll have a slick that we own that also gets to go there. But for us, he's literally, when people say life changing, he changed our lives.
He wasn't just, I mean, we were so lucky to have the competitive careers with him, the 5 years that he ran and went to NFR 4 years and set the arena record for a stallion. No stallions still run faster than him there. But then we got the bonus of he's just this gentle, kind, natured stallion, which is why the rodeo girls, they would all be like, we love Slick. He stands right next to us. He just didn't care. But then now he's moved into the breeding part, which was what we were trying to do before we found him when we were looking for him. But now he's turned into this breeding stallion that is, just setting records, and his foals are doing amazing. So it's been an amazing ride with him. I think this is year 11 with Slick. So he's right over there. So we're so lucky that he changed our lives.
And you're standing here at the farm then?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a cheat sheet here in front of me, guys, and it says that he has almost $627,000 in lifetime earnings.
Yeah. And so what's neat about that is that was before the Pink Buckle and all these big races that those are hard earned, rodeo after rodeo, 5,000, 2,000 at a time. There's 4 years there that he just was hard to beat.
That's good.
All right, let's talk about another one that was hard to beat. Tell us about Jade.
Well, Jade is Doc's gunslinger chick, and we've only owned her a couple years. We thought it'd be fun to own a rope horse, and so one came available that Paul Leaves had won the world on, and so as we're really getting to the breeding, we just wanted to try to have a top level rope mare that we could also put into our breeding program and start breeding some rope horses. So we can't really take much credit for her. We were just the owners. Last year, Paul Halder and then Coulter Todd's horse, I believe, got hurt. So he asked if he could borrow her about a week before the NFR. And so he rode her and won the average. And I think she's won about 600,000 herself. And now she has some yearlings on the ground, and we're looking forward to breeding and training and doing some rope horses.
They healed on her, right?
Healer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the barrel horses.
Okay.
HP Ta Fiesta.
So HP Fiesta is a stud that we have that he also ran at the NFR with Ryan Padone in a couple rounds. Going back to before we bought Slick, we had decided to try to buy some embryos from some top mares, and we bought an embryo from Stingray, Sherry Survey's mare. And we also brought an embryo from Firewater Fiesta, Kelly's great mare. And so in our heads, we were thinking, we were going to hopefully get a stud prospect out of one of these embryos. And the one we bought from Kelly, it double ovulated, so we ended up having 2. And so we got HP Dasta Fiesta, and then we also got a filly, and then out of Stingray we got Stinger, Phil the Sting. So we actually got 2 stud colts, and so that's where he came from. He was our plan all along to try to get a stud colt.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that we actually thought we'll just buy these 2 great embryos, breed them both to Dash to Fame, which would or cross them on the Dash to Fame, which is the number 1 barrel sire, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then your dream is to raise a stud, but our dream also was maybe we'll raise one that we actually can get going and train, and then it'll go to the NFR. And actually Feel the Sting is that horse. We raised him. We started him here at Highpoint, and then we sent him to Ryan Padone to train. and he just took to everything. He won a good amount as a futurity horse, but ultimately our dream was to maybe make the NFR, and he did that. He made it at the last weekend possible. He needed just a tick more, and it was like one of the most excited moments I've ever seen Jason or I be, because we get excited. We don't get overly excited. We were watching the finale there, and I think it was in Omaha.
And we were at this.
We were in Scottsdale showing, and
yeah.
we're watching our horse. And basically, he had to win rounds to get out of the 16th place hole to qualify for the NFR. And he won, and then he went to the finals, and she needed to be first or second in the finals. He was just an amazingly talented horse, and she won the finals and made it.
Yeah.
So
And he, our philosophy at that time was try to get a really broke horse. So even though we started him, Ron Rawls had him for a couple of years and really got him a really good handle on him. And then he went from there to Ryan.
yeah, unfortunately, our dream didn't quite work out because a month or two, I think in October of that year, they qualified for the NFR. He made a run and made a really good run, but came out sore, and he actually had fractured his hock.
Oh,
So he didn't get a run at the NFR that year. It was 2020. We ran the HP Dash the Fiesta horse, who hadn't had as much rodeo experience, but he did his best, and another mare we owned. So unfortunately, he never got to run at the NFR, even though he qualified. So we still have that dream left. Someday we're going to raise one that makes it to the NFR and runs at the NFR. So we've still got that to check off the box.
that embryo that you bought from Kelly Yates was out of Firewater Fiesta, of course. And we did a show a month and a half ago or something with J.D. Yates, and he talked a lot about Firewater Fiesta.
She was a life changer for sure for them. I mean,
Yeah.
so many great. I mean, she was great to watch herself. I mean, that's why I asked to buy the embryo, because I had watched her run at the NFR several times. Just an amazing, talented horse, and a great team and family behind her. But even so many of her foals have went on to be top horses.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're really lucky to be a part of that. I don't know why. I don't even know why these Sherry or Kelly, why they sold us embryos. It wasn't like, but they did. So we were very lucky to get those and be a part of those legacies.
To carry that a little bit further, now, race horses, and I know a lot of horses are coming off the track that are going to the barrel races and everything. Those horses they're taught to run straight down the track. They barely rein at all. So how hard is it to get one like that to,
Well, I think you probably have to, we really haven't done it yet, but I'm assuming you have to have the right trainer that gets them after the racetrack and then put the handle on them. Both of the horses that we bought for Wenda Johnson were both off the track. The horse right now that she's running, that she'll be running at the NFR this year, Steel Money, he's a son of First Moonflash and had a racing career. And I think what's interesting about having a racehorse that's off the track that goes to barrel pin is they already know the explosive power. When you're training a barrel horse, and they know they're going to turn the first barrel and they're going to run across and they're going to stop to the second barrel. It's really hard sometimes to teach them to really fire, because they know they've just been trained. They're going to leave the first barrel, run to the second barrel. They're going to slow down and go around it. But when you have a racehorse, it's just, I think, instinctively in them to fire. So like when you say go, they really go. And like this colt we have, Steel Money, he's just fast. I mean, he can make a mistake and he can still win, even on the biggest playing fields. We know that if he has a good run, he's going to get a big check.
So y'all actually do not train the barrel horses then?
We train a lot here, but we've raised all of ours. So we haven't put any on the track.
Okay.
That's probably in our near future. It's looking like, because we have a lot of really well race bred horses. Most of what we've done here is we start everything here, and then we send them, either we have used to be I would train some, but we just send them out there. So we haven't put them on the track and then put them on the barrels. But that's where the Mo horse came from, but we bought him already pretty well trained.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. What inspired y'all to enter on the racing scene?
I wanted an outcross, and the barrel horses are just getting so competitive, and there's more and more race blood put in them. Some people still breed with some cow and race, but there's a lot of horse winning right now that are basically just race horses, and so that's why we picked him.
So this is going to be your 11th time to qualify for the NFR. This is so exciting. And of course, you've had super horses, you've had show horses, rodeo horses, but being with those horses that are qualifying for the NFR, you have to be in the stands. That's a whole nother type of feeling. So tell us about that.
I know for me, it's a huge adrenaline rush having barrel horses running at the NFR, and just the whole experience is so different and much more pumped than what we're used to. But for sure, it's much easier showing ourselves. Like, I know I would rather be showing. I know he'd rather be showing. To be sitting on the sidelines can be challenging for both of us. We've been in the boat where we're just there as a complete spectator. We've now, the last couple of years, thankfully, I get to be a part of it. I'm helping warm up. I'm in the stalling area. Like, I like to be doing something. It is hard to sit in the stands. And the barrel racing, and especially NFR, it comes with the highest highs, but it comes with the lowest lows. And you live for 24 hours with whatever you last did. And that's what, for Jason, is probably, he will tell you, is probably the most challenging part. It's challenging for all of us, but we're either at the ice cream stand after it's over, or
and that's when we lost.
or we're out partying. But so that's probably the part that Jason, it's probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you really like it?
I don't know. We go all year trying to make the NFR, and then when you get there, it's like you said, it's the highest highs. It's 13 seconds where you're just cheering, and then you're like, then you hit a barrel, so you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, and then you watch the video 500 times, and you just play it over in your head. But then when you do get a round win, and you get to go to South Point and get up on the stage, and they get the buckles and stuff, and it's just an amazing accomplishment and feeling. And and some years you have great years, some years you don't. Some days you have great days, but it's like he said, it's waiting all day to know that you're going to have some huge emotional impact, and you don't know if it's a good one or a bad one. And to me, it's a little bit of torture. Yeah. It's a little torture. So a few years ago, we were having ups and downs on trying to qualify for the NFR. And I in my calendar, I wrote, do I want to have barrel horses? Do I not want to have barrel horses? Do I want to? And so every day I'd go, no barrel horses, no barrel horses. Yes. Because, it's different. Barrel horses are different. In our show world, if I'm showing Harley or Charlie's on one of his good horses, I know that I'm going to be in the top. If I get through the pattern, I know the quality horse I am, a horse that I'm on. Those horses, I might not win, but I'm going to be at the top. In the barrel horse, it's not like that.
It's kind of like a gamble.
It's such a luck of the draw. You could be, your perf could be in the rain, or, it could be that the conditions could be different. You could be last on the draw. You could be first on the draw. So there's a lot of luck with it, and there's a lot of highs and lows, and just, you can have a great, great horse, and you might get 3 checks out of 10. It's just a different game for what Charlie and I are so used to, of the consistency. If you're on the top, you're on the top, and you kind of know, how the day's going to end up. But it's just a lot of highs and lows.
Yeah. You got to learn. It's really hard to learn to embrace the moment and then let it go when it doesn't go well, because it can be a little slip, or it could just be my timing, someone's timing was off just a little bit. So you just have to let it go, especially when you're at the NFR, because you have 24 hours to either wallow in that or embrace that and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But you got to ride the middle. But the highs are so high that, when the one's around at the NFR, 2 years ago, she won the very first round. I was like, oh, thank God. It doesn't matter what else happens. We won a round. We are golden. And she won another one. And then last year was probably most challenging NFR we've ever been to, because we knew we had a horse that could win rounds and
would have won rounds.
And would have run two out of the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 rounds, but just tipped a barrel or just a little thing. But then it just went, we just couldn't get out of that, that heap of just bad luck or whatever. But we got through it. And I think this year we have a really good plan this year with the horses, and with Wenda and Mo. And I feel like this year going in, we all are on a hold. I think we're in a really good place, and we're all really excited about this year. We've had a good year. We've had a bad year. Going in this year, we have a plan of how we're going to prepare, what we're going to do differently. And I think we're actually really looking forward to this year. But it'll be the highs. When people see us and they're like, wow, why are they just eating ice cream and marching through the casino and not talking to anyone? And then when they see us in the casino, we're like, yeah, you know what happens. But we all handle it differently, and we do. And I mean, it's such a great experience.
And if we do well, our phones literally blow up, and so it's fun. There's a lot of people living vicariously through Slick and Wenda and Mo, and so I mean, literally, the second they're done running, since it's live on TV, our phones will just blow up if we've had a good one.
It's funny how much the show horse people have embraced or lived through us in the barrel horse thing and the rodeo thing. I mean, I'll get a text from someone. I'm like, I hardly ever talk to, so-and-so, but they're texting me about the NFR or that round or this. And it's really fun that even with Slick really started it. People were so invested in it. Mm-hmm. People, they're like, hey, I want a Slick hat. It's like a pleasure horse trainer. They're like, how do I get a Slick hat? I go, I'll bring you a Slick hat. And they still want them. So it's really been a fun ride, just doing the barrel thing, because it is so different than what so many of us show people have done for so long.
And just like the show horse, Charlie at the NFR will tell me to let it go about 50 times this time. Let it go, Jason. Let it go. Stop watching the video.
He will watch the video over and over. I'm like,
fast forward.
She hit the barrel. Yes, she probably, or he,
which just leads to why we're a good team, because what I'm not good at, he's good at.
Oh. Can you tell us who's riding your horses this year?
Yeah, we actually have such a great group of riders that are riding or training our barrel horses. We've had a solid group for the last several years. Wenda Johnson rides our rodeo horses. She's known. She has one speed, and that is fast. And she's what they call. I learned this term last year at a rodeo in Ellensburg, Washington. A bunch of the rodeo girls were talking, and Emily Beisel, who's going to that far this year again. I didn't know her super well, but she's really funny, and she goes, This is not a full send pattern to Wenda and I. And I go, what's the full send? And Wenda goes, is there anything but? And I was like, oh. And Emily's like, yeah, don't full send. And then she looked at Wenda. She's like, oh, that's right. You only full send. And Wenda's like, yep. And that is Wenda. Wenda is full send. I mean, she just goes fast, and she is an amazing talent. She has the most perfect temperament for a barrel racer. She doesn't get too excited. She doesn't get too upset. So I've hauled with her each year a couple weeks, and I really appreciate her demeanor is just on point, and she handles it so well, and she's classy. So Wenda rides our rodeo horses, and right now really she just has Mo. We have a backup horse that's hit or miss. So we think we have in the barn here that we raise, we have a horse that was a top futurity horse last year that we're super excited for to get in the rodeo world. But so Wenda rides those, and then a girl named Ashley Schaefer does our futurity horses. She trained the one I'm talking about. We call her Johnny, and she does a fabulous job. She has the one that's Boomer and Boomet's relative that we hope is going to be the next stallion for us. And then also Carolyn Boucher. I call her Boucher, but she trains right here in Pilot Point. She's from Montreal and has 2 or 3 for us. And she also does just an amazing job. Great at communication. She's fun. All 3 of the girls that ride for us now are A+, and we really have a great time with them.
Earlier today, we were We were just talking, and you said you got into this because you were looking for something that wasn't scored. So,
Yeah, I think the barrel racing, you know, I always, when I started, I mean, there's only one person, it's either you or the horse screwed up. I learned that maybe the ground can be an issue sometime for some people, but really it's you and the clock. And the clock says it all. So, when you show for a living and do the show horse thing, everything has to be perfect. And, a little stumble or a horse coughing or a little guiding can take away. And it's all up to a judge to decide whether that's a penalty or they just don't like it. Everything mattered. And I just wanted something that the clock said it all. And the clock's what mattered. And so that's why I liked barrel racing.
Yeah, for me, like you're under the microscope when you're a horse, when you're a trainer, and when you're showing, and every single thing I do, I'm being judged on, both inside the ring, outside the ring. You try to be politically correct. You try to, you're just being under a microscope. And with the barrels, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice. You don't have a winning run that you didn't win because you think somebody should have let you win. They didn't. It's just either you did or you didn't, And so I think that's what we like about it is it's just, we don't have to play any politics. We don't have to worry about being judged. It just is what it is.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It has just been an absolute pleasure getting to speak with world-renowned experts like yourselves. So thank you for spending time with us today.
Well, thank you for coming to the
thanks,
ranch.
guys. We appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love talking about our horses and the horses that have made us who we are.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about the horses we discussed in this episode, visit aqha.com/goodhorses. There you can explore the pedigrees, performance achievements, breeding history, and much more. It's the perfect place to dig deeper and stay connected with the American quarter horse. Don't forget to subscribe for updates and follow AQHA on social media.